Thank you, Jerry. Now, in wartime in 1943, when bombs were falling on this city, one of Manchester's greatest institutions was also in peril, the Halley Orchestra. And not only because its home, the Free Trade Hall, had been destroyed. At that time, my last guest tonight was living in the comparative safety of New York, where he had succeeded Toscanini as conductor of the New York Philharmonic. But when he received a cable from Manchester asking if he would come here to reconstruct the ailing Halley, he agreed. His success with the Halley in the last 23 years is legend. He's joined us tonight straight from conducting at a concert in this city, Sir John Barbirolli. Well, Sir John, as this is an anniversary event, I think I should mention, not that one needs reminding, that the very first music heard on independent television was in fact conducted by you.
Yes, that was with AR. When we, in the Guildhall in London, they had a great banquet to introduce this new medium of commercial television, which I was always in favor of.
Independent television, yeah.
Yeah, well, whatever.
We don't get paid. We don't get paid on that.
I don't know the niceties of all this. But true, it was the Halley Orchestra in the Guildhall, and we played the Cocaine Overture of Elgar to put the first music onto the script. And I'm very happy about that. That's why I wanted you to join you tonight.
Great. Now, I want to get one thing straight, Sir John, because it's a little confusing. This is the lineage question. I know that Manchester has taken you to its heart, of course, and you to your heart, but you are, in fact, you were born in London. Your father was Italian. Your mother was French. Now, what does this make you?
I said...
See a lawyer before you answer that.
Well, I get very little time to watch any television or... I didn't even get time to watch any cricket now. But I have occasionally greatly enjoyed the performances of this gentleman with his father.
Who's not Italian.
Oh no. But the first thing I said to him, I said, "Are you a proper Cockney like me or a fake?"
Listen to pot calling the kettle black. Listen. All these years knocking around as a Manchester lad with clogs on in front of them.
And he said to me, "Blimey, I always thought you was Manchester." It's the other way round. Now, I don't know quite what it makes me, because I'm a pure Latin by blood, of course, French and Italian. The first language I ever spoke was the Venetian dialect, because my father came from that wonderful city of Padua. I heard you mention Shakespeare before, in the first of Mrs. Braddock. And he's called in the, that's right, my Liverpool friend. And he's called in the, I think it's The Two Gentlemen of Verona. He refers to Padua as the cradle of the arts, because there was the first anatomy theatre in the first university in Europe. So the first language I spoke was the Paduan dialect. Then I suppose I picked up Cockney in the streets.
So you're a Paduan Cockney.
And then I went to school and learned English, and here we are.
What
So
Manchester thinks today, Padua thinks tomorrow, mate.
Yeah. So, John, when you came here first to take up this mammoth task of no concert hall, no musicians, no funds, where did you set an order of target? What did you begin with?
Well, I almost came here under very serious misapprehension that there was an orchestra, because it's much too long and involved a question to go into at this time of night. But the Halley had become, in a way, what eventually became the BBC Northern Orchestra. It couldn't function on its own. The BBC employed a nucleus of about 40 players.
So where did you find your musicians from?
So when I got here, I expected to find an orchestra of about at least 65, 70 people, and there only 26 came from the BBC, and then I began, for 5 weeks, I held auditions, morning, noon, and night, heard everybody and anybody, and found some extraordinary talent. And of course, it was the time of the war when everybody was mobilized. You know, so I had to look for what you might call the slightly maimed. No. By that, I mean, now those gentlemen will appreciate what I'm going to say. You know,
that's the way they feel.
You know, people with flat feet but straight fingers. That's the kind of talent I had to find. And I found some really remarkable talent. For example, a wonderful first flute, who's now unfortunately gone to Covent Garden, a boy called Oliver Bannister, and he became first flute of the Halley when he was 15 and a half. We had to wangle it with his school to let him come. But there were some very amusing incidents. As I said, I listened to anybody who came, and a dear old boy came and gave me an audition on the double bass. And he wasn't any good at all. He seemed a very decent chap, it was a sport. So we always give, as a test piece, the scherzo of the Fifth Symphony as a bass player over there. Yes.
Have you got your scherzo with you?
And the scherzo of the Beethoven Fifth, there's that famous passage.
That's the...
Now, you shouldn't put things in the way of an Italian. You know?
I only hope you can mime as well as conduct now, because you got no mic.
And so, he played the famous passage. The extraordinary thing was that he made a very vigorous action with the bow, but he never shifted his left hand. I've only got a minute or more, so I must tell you the lovely end of this story. There's a frightful double bass solo in the opera Othello, which goes very, very high in D to a top C flat. And by the way, my father and my grandfather both played in the first performance of Othello in the Scala in 1886. So my operatic ancestry is pretty sound. And I'm going to do some opera next week here at the Free Trade Hall and go about a butterfly.
Doesn't miss a trick, never mind a note.
First music I conducted in this city. But to return to my friend the bass player, it was really very unkind of me, this. But we had this as a test piece, and so I thought, well, I'll let him have a go. So he got to this famous bit from an E flat to a C flat, a long way, you know. And he went up a little way, you know. So I said, it's further than that. Oh, you know. So he went a bit further. And after about 3 goes, I used to be a cellist, you know. So I picked up his bass and I played, and I actually found a note. And this old boy came, he says, what? He says, up there? added this wonderful place. I've never been up there before.
Harry, despite what Sir John says, of course, you're a Mancunian. Have you, in fact, ever been along to hear the Halle?
No, but you missed me at those auditions, didn't you?
Yes. What about Billy? Have you seen Sir John conduct?
Yes, I have, and I was about 14 at the Eastbrook Hall in Brandon.
Oh, Bradford.
Yeah. I know that you're
What's your memory of it, Billy?
It was the Rossel Cavalier,
Yes, yes,
the waltz,
yes, all the sweet, yes.
and
Bravo.
you practically waltzed out of the little box that you stand in. It was marvellous. Your back was beautiful. And something else that you may not remember. But as you went out, I was sitting there open mouthed and the music was marvellous. As you went out, marvellous up the steps, you tripped and fell flat on your face.
I'm sorry. Talking about dancing. Danny Kaye is a very old fellow of mine.
He conducted the Halle.
No, I'm still waiting for him.
Oh, I thought he did.
No, but he conducts a lot of American orchestras, you know, for their funds, you know, for the pension funds.
He has gone on record as saying it's the greatest feeling of neurotic power to conduct an orchestra that there is in the world.
Well, I would agree with the power. I'm not so sure about that. But I remember that this sweet lady said about dancing the Rosen Cavalier. Apparently, Danny, being quite a fan of mine for years, but never actually seen me conduct in the flesh. And am I taking up too much time?
Impossible.
We happened to be together in San Francisco. I was a guest conductor of the San Francisco Symphony, and he was doing his one-man show. And he's really terribly interested in conducting. So he came to all my rehearsals. Every morning he was there in the afternoon, and first time he saw me conduct, the first thing he said to me, he said, "So you're a dancer too, Johnny?" But then, well, no, one of the most difficult things to conduct is the opening of the Fifth Symphony of Beethoven. Oh, because they're very inconvenient.
Harry's had the same trouble.
Definitely. You know that, don't you? When you go into the top...
Well, what does your father say about it?
He says, will you shout that rotten noise off?
Inconvenient pause. Pa-pa-pa-pa, which stops. Then you have pa-pa-pa-pa, it stops again. Then you have to start again. It's not so easy. And so anyway, I'm actually doing that symphony, and Danny was very interested and invited me to his show. Have you seen his one-man show? That's right. And he has a little band on the stage that he turns to occasionally, and they take part in a number. And this show, the audience must have been really mystified, because every now and again he would stop the whole thing and then go, the band would play, pa-pa-pa-pa, pa-pa-pa-pa. Then he'd turn and say, "All right, Johnny." And this went on the whole evening. He's a wonderful chap.
Oh, yes. And so is Sir John, a wonderful chap, but I must leave it there now that we've lost a microphone. Bob Sharples has lost a bass player. It's all got flat feet, as Harry says. It's time to say good night and thanks to Jackie Trent and Jerry Marsden over there. And it's good night, Billy Whitelaw and Peter Maloney, and of course, Harry Corbett and Sir John Barbirolli.